Today we are doing Lumina Talks, Truth in an Age That Can't Agree on What's Real. Those of you who are online, welcome, and thanks everybody for being here. I appreciate you engaging in this conversation. I want to start with something small, and it's a small conversation that I had with a group of pastors that I'm connected to, and I keep a thread on my phone with this group, and we continually have a conversation. Now, that conversation might be interrupted or it might change subjects, but we do have a continual communication through the week. And I have done this for years with this group because I find that relationship is important, but also relationship with people that I don't agree with or they don't agree with me is also important to keep that perspective, or at least that alternate perspective that I can weigh my views with. So imagine this conversation where Renee Good was killed this week or this last week by an ICE agent. 4 or 5 angles of footage. Was it murder? Was it self-defense? So I asked the question, what do you think about this killing and this shooting? Now that question then is packaged with something very important. And that question is packaged with another question. How do I know what's actually true? How do I know what I'm seeing is actually true? How do I know what I'm listening to is actually true? Opinion fodder comes in. We have all kinds of people giving their opinion online and socials, in media, and also in blogs. All that information is pounded towards us in a non-consumable way. You cannot assimilate that much information in your life. It is impossible. The brain chemistry does not allow for it. So the question, how do I know what's true, even when I'm watching footage, film, from all kinds of angles, listening to my favorite channels that I maybe agree with or a few that I disagree with? How do I know what's actually true? Seems philosophical, but it's also an urgent question, because the urgency comes in this fashion. If we don't know what's true, if we don't agree upon what's true, then what future decisions are we making based on what we believe is true or not true? That feels a little more urgent. So today in our world, truth is not necessarily debated anymore. We do not debate truths. We do not stand up in front of people in the old debate formats and go back and forth about what's true, not true, what's best, what's not best. Truth is distrusted. It's distrusted in today's world. It's not just disagreed with, it's actually, when it's distrusted, it's dismissed. And that is a dangerous place, I think, in our world to be. And for those of us that are shaped by, let's say, faith or ethics or maybe community, we're asking, how do we seek truth without tearing one another apart? So that's the next level of the discussion. If we distrust, then how do we not tear apart relationships? How do we not tell the truth? How do we tell the truth without being so arrogant? That's another question that those that are connected or maybe guided by, a shaped by faith, ethics, or community, how do we not be arrogant in our truth? I'm right, but not kind. I think that's an arrogant place to be. And then what I would say is there's a set of ideas that are real. There's a set of ideas that are honest. There's a set of ideas that are foundational. How do I transfer or pass those ideas on to the next generation? Because the next generation doesn't have my lived experience. They have their lived experience, but they're still real and true and honest and foundational ideas that need to be paid forward. But if the world is unstable, how do I pay those things forward? So the problem is this, and I spent time thinking about this for not just a couple of days for this talk, but for months, because algorithms are a real thing. information silos are real, and we need to be very careful. The problem is truth versus attention. Truth versus attention. Attention is what now we equate to truth. What is getting my attention, or what I believe my attention is geared towards, becomes truth more than the facts itself. We don't live, they used to call this age the information age, right? But I would say that we live in an attention economy. That's what we live in. We don't live necessarily in an information Wikipedia age. We live in an attention economy. So what spreads fastest isn't what's most accurate. What spreads fastest isn't what's most accurate. It's what's emotional. It's what gets the most likes. What gets the most comments, the reposts, the shares, the tags. Anger and rage actually transfers faster than sexual content now. Rage is the addiction. Fear travels faster more than the context of the situation and the reality of the context of the situation. Certainty travels faster more than honesty. Certainty, this is the way that it is. This is what I believe we need to do. This is the reality we live, travels faster more than the honesty that is actually real. Cruelty is the addiction. Cruelty is the addiction, a byproduct, the child of rage. The child of rage. So, algorithms, as I was sent in this thread, I was sent the algorithm problem where a video came across that algorithms feed these silos, and we can believe one because of this silo, or we can believe another because of this silo, even with a video of somebody being killed right in front of us. Algorithms don't ask, is it true? They ask, will this keep you scrolling? Will this keep your attention in the attention economy? And the result, I think, is very strange. I think the result is super unhealthy, is we have more information than any generation in all of history probably combined at our fingertips at any moment. And we have less shared understanding than any time in history in this moment. We have less shared understanding. Shared understanding comes in a package or a context of community, context of discussion, context of debate, context even of a fight. Fighting is not necessarily bad as long as we have a shared understanding as we get through the crisis on the other side. And so that is a strange paradox we live. This isn't because people are stupid. There are some that are stupid, but this doesn't mean that the general populace is stupid. It's because the system we live in is based on rewards in the reaction versus reflection. See, in a debate, I have to reflect. And when I get information in my mind, when you say something, I might sit back and reflect on that. But that's not what our economy of information is based upon. It's based upon reward. We have that reward alligator brain that says, oh, I need to react. Therefore, I am liked, or I have a friend, or I'm a part of the in crowd now. And when truth becomes maybe slow and outrage becomes fast, truth becomes optional. Truth becomes optional. So here's where things get complicated, I think. For faith people or faith adjacent people, we'll call it, right? People that are maybe considering or defaithed or just are going, what is going on with the church today? I think that truth, this is where it gets complicated. Truth is not just facts. And this is the challenge that we live in as maybe faith people. Facts do matter, data does matter, evidence does matter, but facts alone don't carry meaning. Facts alone are just facts. Data alone is data, but those ideas don't carry meaning. Do they matter? Yes, but they don't carry shared understanding, because two people can look at the same video and come out with two different conclusions, even if you're looking and deciding, wow, there's distance there, there's out of the way there, there's a side shot there. How could this possibly be a fact or true or real? Two people looking at that same data tell two very different stories, because I believe that truth is layered. It always has been. Kierkegaard said that. Jake's going to go over that here in a minute. There are facts, interpretations, lived experiences that I see through filters. I see through my mind filters. My lived experience definitely defines what those facts are teaching me and telling me that is real and true. Power dynamics shape my power over, or my status in life. Shape, that's a filter that I carry in my mind, which stories get told through that filter. And so it's a pipeline of logic where I have a data point that gets put in my pipeline, and it bounces around in the pipeline. All my shared experiences, my education, my thoughts, being a dad, being a husband, being all these things, and trying to figure out life, and my traumas and my crises and my mental garbage I deal with, and then comes out the other side of the pipeline as my truth and my reality. When someone says that's not true, they often are saying that does not match my lived experience. That's actually what they're saying at the end of the pipeline of logic. This is why two people can look at the same image and come to two different conclusions when we're looking at that image saying, okay, are you dismissing the experience that this person just had or is not having anymore? So we don't protect truth in this method. We're not protecting the data or the facts. We're not protecting evidence. I would say that this is something that might sound familiar to you. Truth isn't just something you possess, it's someone you walk with. Truth is not something you possess, it's someone you walk with. That's the story of Christ. When you're walking with said Jesus, that is a truth you're walking with. So this is something that we don't talk enough about, because truth is very dangerous as well and needs to be carefully wielded in our society. Truth can be very dangerous. You can see this from journalists and whistleblowers and immigrants and people naming abuse in relationships. Truth can be very, very dangerous. People challenging ideas and systems, toxic systems. Toxic systems benefit from silence. Toxic and oppression benefits from just shutting our mouths. But when we speak out, well, we celebrate truth tellers when it's safe. We celebrate truth tellers when it's safe, after history has vindicated the truth, right? So we sit there on the other side of history, on the farther down the timeline of history, and we look back and say, see, I told you so. Or see, I knew that was real. I knew that was right back in the day. I think that this possibly because truth costs so much and truth can be dangerous, that this is why the legislative branch is acting in the way that they are today. Why? I don't want to get death threats either. I don't want my family to be at risk either. Why would I speak up and speak in a matter that would put me on the outside? I wouldn't want that either. So, truth costs reputation, truth costs belonging, truth costs security. This is why silence is rewarded. This is why shutting our mouths is the best option as we walk through this life. So when you say we need to stand for the truth, what are we actually saying? Well, we're actually saying that that's going to cost, or some price is going to be paid, or something is going to be protected or unprotected, and that possibly is my life. So, truth without courage isn't truth. It's Alex Trebek game show trivia, right? Trivia is actually just data points. But truth, actually, without courage, is just data points. So we have this shared reality that we're not achieving in life. We're not achieving shared reality. I think one of the deepest challenges of today, when I think just about this last week, we don't disagree on solutions anymore. Solutions is that debate and conversation and collaboration. We're going to sit down at a table and we totally disagree, but we're going to come to like 5 points we can agree and leave the rest for later, right? That's disagreeing and debating about solutions. We're actually disagreeing on what's real. That's where we're at. And that's a dangerous place to be in our media bubbles, creates literally parallel realities. How is it possible that you're on this rail and I'm on this rail, different, thinking different, when we have reality staring us in the face, reinforced by algorithms, reinforced by tribes, reinforced by party affiliation, and all the things that come along? We actually, I'll just come off of my notes. Can I just say we are living in cult? We are literally living in cult reality, cults of personality. Can I rhyme that? I can come up with a rap, right? That cults is what is driving this society, a dangerous, dangerous reality. Whatever the result of that, I don't know, but I know that conversations are collapsed. We don't have conversations, we have telling. That's all we have. And our keyboard warriorship that we put on our badges and wear our war ribbons because we said the right thing on our keyboards, that's not a conversation. That's hiding behind a screen and disagreeing on realities. And so you can't reason with somebody when you don't agree on basic facts. You can't agree with, there's no healing when it comes to when you believe somebody's living in delusion. I mean, there's no healing there. There's no agreement there. And so this is not a political problem, even though I brought up some political ideas. It's not a political problem. It's a relational problem. I think the leaders of our country are not, how can I say this? They're cruel. Can I just pause for a moment and think about the cruelty? I mean, this is not about doing the right thing or not the right thing. This is not about this is true and not true. I think that our leaders are cruel. And when you're dealing with that amount of delusion, of cruelty, there's no healing there. There's no conversation there. There's no debate there. There's no sitting down at a table and having a relational conversation there. So families feel it. I mean, I had to step outside, take my sunglasses off, and just stare towards the sun just to relax this week. I know somebody else that just had to take a walk because the anxiety there. When you have to stare into the sun and take a walk just to regulate your life, you know that there is a serious problem in our society. It's not on my doorstep. It might be in my neighborhood, but it's not on my doorstep. My daughter now carries her paperwork with her. What kind of stress do I have to live there? Why do I have to live in that less of liberty that other people get to live in? Communities feel it. This community feels it. People just yarded out of their homes. Congregations feel it. We're being affected by it. Well, I would say here's the hopeful turn. Here's like, I'm going to give some hope. I mean, that's pretty gloom and doom, right? And that's pretty, I guess, negative. But I would say a better way. What is the better way? Because if we can't agree on reality, and this data point and that data point speak two different truths, even though it's the same data points, right? And my truth is different than your truth. Well, here's a hopeful, I guess, turn. Truth is not a position you defend, it's a practice you cultivate. It's a practice. I think that truth looks like this. Truth looks like listening before reacting. That's what truth cultivates. Curiosity instead of certainty. I don't know if you've ever heard of the sin of certainty, but there is a sin of certainty that I believe has infiltrated our society. Curiosity is seen as weak. So maybe we need to be weak and meek before we're strong and certain. So certainty is the sin, curiosity instead of certainty. Maybe confession when we're wrong. Whatever side we believe or silo we're living in, maybe confession is something that we can practice. Maybe staying in relationship even when it's uncomfortable. Even when it's uncomfortable, and we totally disagree with this other person's position in life. So, truth anymore, I don't believe, is revolving around debates. It's not winning arguments. But I would say that truth is more being trustworthy people. Being trustworthy people, because in trustworthy people in my life have spoken very carefully to me. They've spoken very honestly, but they've spoken very carefully. They're not out to be cruel. They're not out to tear me down. They're not out to just make sure that I feel 100% wrong. That's not a trustworthy person. They speak carefully, they listen generously, their ears are open. And honestly, when they're a powerful person, they hold that power very responsibly. They hold the power very responsibly and don't wield it against me. And so I think that truth grows best in community. Truth grows best in the cultivation of community, not combat, not wielding swords and shields against one another. So let me go back to that original thread, the back and forth, the honest question of what do you think is true, or what do you think about this? And of course, websites got delivered to me, and videos got delivered to me, and this news channel got delivered to me, and this list of links got delivered to me. I would say that truth is not a bunch of links and websites. It's not a political party, it's not an affiliation, and it's not certainty. I would say it's a way of life. Truth is a way of life that we now can hearken back on philosophers that spoke this centuries ago. Is who are we walking with? Because truth is cultivated with who we are walking with. And I care, maybe I need to start saying this more, but I care about truth enough to slow down, maybe stare in the sun a little bit, take a walk in the warmth. I care about people enough to listen. That's why I keep that thread open. But I also care enough about my own integrity to change my mind. I also care about my malleability. And so if we want a future where some kind of truth survives, if we want a future where we can become a semblance of human beings that are decent, right? If we want that kind of life, I think that truth needs to be built with trust. Truth needs to be built with the future of truth can't be decided on facts and data. The future of truth is whether I choose to love my neighbor in the context of truth, truly love my neighbor more than my desire to be right. So let's go to our table talks. I have 3 questions that I want you to just spend time with. I think this is an important subject, especially right now. And so if you can make it to the 2 questions, the first 2 questions, that'd be great. If you make it to the third, even better, you get some gold stars. So let's take some time and go through those questions now. Thank you.
We'll come back together now if we can. So the title today that Kevin and I are both presenting on is Truth in an Age That Can't Agree on What's Real. I want you to pause for a moment, close your eyes, and think of a viral video that you saw this week. What's one video that you saw? Sit with that for a moment. And come back together. Show of hands. Whose video contained violence? Rage? Anger? Death, even? It's a large majority of us. You watch a video, a public incident, authority, fear, movement, and force. We could even put names on it this week. It's chaotic, but it's real, or at least it feels real. And before you've even finished watching it, the interpretations start to roll in like a flood. The keyboard warriors, as Kevin called them earlier. They say things like, this proves injustice, or this proves self-defense. This proves that media can't be trusted, or this proves nothing whatsoever at all. The same footage, the same moment in time, but radically different realities and vantage points. And you sit there and you think to yourself, how could anyone see the same video, the same footage, and come out with the exact opposite view of what I just saw in interpretation? And that's when you realize something very unsettling. The argument isn't about what happened. It's about what counts as truth. We're mourning life lost. We aren't mourning life lost. We are debating morality. Today, my talk is centered around why truth speaking doesn't win arguments, but truth living does. The embodiment of truth, as Kevin talked about as well earlier. Truth speaking doesn't win arguments, but truth living does. We are not in a post-truth age. We are in a conflicted truth age. People often say that we're living in the post-truth era, and they bring up terms like postmodernism or deconstructionism. Often they come up in these conversations. I don't think that's right. Truth hasn't disappeared at all. What's disappeared is an agreement on how truth works, or even an agreement on the definition of terms. We still argue passionately. We cite evidence strongly. We have websites to back it up. We often say, look at the facts, but we don't agree on which facts matter, who gets to interpret them, or what they require of us once we've seen and digested them. Facts never win arguments. So truth becomes less like a shared foundation and more like contested territory. And that matters because without a shared reality, we cannot do a shared life. In Nietzsche's book, God is Dead, talks about a man walking through the street, throwing a lantern on the ground and saying, God is dead. People think that's a prescriptive idea of what's to come, but it was more descriptive on the reality of truth, even at the time of post-World War I and World War II Germany. Think about that truth is subjective completely at that moment. Why this moment feels so unstable to us. As we're in our rooms, as we're doom scrolling through our social media, we feel unstable. We're living with 3 overlapping pressures. More information than any time in history is at our fingertips at all moments. Collapsing trust in institutions that once mediated truth. The news is now entertainment. It's based on rage. Third is this intense moral stakes around power, identity, and harm. Can we follow this person if they do blank? What is real? What matters? So every major event becomes overloaded, not just in data, but with meaning. Truth doesn't disappear, it just fractures. To understand what's really going on, I want to step back a couple hundred years, back to the 1800s. I'm going to talk a lot about Søren Kierkegaard. He's a Danish philosopher from the 1800s, where there were no smartphones, there was no video footage, there was no social media, just human beings, power, crowds, anxiety, and so much meaning. Kierkegaard was deeply worried about something that he was seeing emerge in modern society, kind of like Nietzsche. Not ignorance, not lack of information, but avoidance of responsibility from what we take in. Kierkegaard is famous, or infamous is saying is famous, that truth is subjective. It's all subjectivity. That line gets used very constantly, but very wrong. People say, see, truth is relative, or truth is whatever I feel. Everyone has their own truth, but that's not what he meant. Kierkegaard was not rejecting facts. He was rejecting detached truth. And he believed the most dangerous lie wasn't false information. It was true information that demanded nothing of us. So what are we doing with it? There is an idea of big T or little t truth. Mostly what I'm going to be speaking about is the little t truth. The big T truth to Kierkegaard was the objective idea of the character of God: love, justice, patience, peace. And those ideas transfer out all reality, and that's the truth that we can that we can hope in, that becomes our hope individually. Kierkegaard drew a sharp distinction between these two. The little t truth, that's objective truth. Facts, data, evidence, events. And that matters. It does matter to us directly, deeply. But there's also this idea of existential truth. The big T truth is how truth is received, how truth reshapes our lives, and how it demands action. Objective truth asks us what happened, but existential truth asks, who am I becoming because of what happened? In the book Talking to Strangers, Malcolm Gladwell writes about how truth in each instance of every relationship changes. He brings up the example of on cop shows where you line up all the subjects and then you have to choose through it. I forget the inaccuracy of that. I want to say it's like 90% inaccurate. That 9 out of 10 times the victim will choose the wrong person. 9 out of 10 times. But we still will often do it. Kierkegaard believed the second question is where we live our lives, or it dies. Who am I becoming? What is truth? And how does that directly reflect me? Our problem isn't lack of facts. We have so many facts in our fingertips at all times. It's about moral distance. But here's the tension in our age. We're incredibly informed. We know so much of what's going on, but we're also increasingly morally disengaged. Morally, we have no action on the truth that we consume. We consume crisis like content. Kevin talked about rage bait earlier, transferring faster than sex. It used to say sex sells, but now rage is what sells the most. We debate human suffering like theory. We debate human suffering like theory. Who should suffer? How much? How much should we pay? It all comes down to debate of theory. We analyze violence like it's abstract. It's away from us. It's distant. But violence is within us. Kierkegaard would say, you can know everything in the world and still be avoiding truth. Because truth from him was not something you observe, it was something that confronts you. Truth is not something you observe, it's something that confronts you. The crowd, you think about crowd theory moving as one mob. The crowd is comfortable, truth is not. One of Kierkegaard's most unsettling claims was this: the crowd itself is untruth. He didn't mean that crowds are always wrong. He meant that in crowds, it's easy to disappear. In a crowd, a responsibility is diffused. So we're in a group of people. Our personal responsibility is diffused. The conscience is quieted because with people around us that think like us, we don't have to bring in truth and see how it can directly change us because we feel like it's going the right way. And also in the crowd, moral risk is shared until it vanishes. Moral risk is shared until it vanishes. So does that sound familiar? Today, the crowd looks like the comment sections on our social media pages, ideological camps, political teams, or algorithm-fed certainty. And Kevin talked about the sin of certainty earlier, that when we don't live in that we could be wrong, that is when we come into sin. The crowd rewards this: speed over reflection, certainty over humility, loyalty over honesty. Truth, on the other hand, isolates us. Truth asks you to stand somewhere specific, not just retweet, repost, or react. Truth tells you to stop groupthink, to stop cult theory, and to stop blind obedience. This is why public incidents fracture us so much. Not because the facts are always unknowable. The facts are pretty knowable, but because the implications of those facts might be unbearable. If this interpretation of the facts is true, then something must change, and that change may be very difficult. If that story is true, then I might be the ones at fault. We talk about that with white fragility a lot. If that story is true, then I might be implicated. If that suffering is true, and think about the suffering in the world right now, there is enough of it, then neutrality, our voices, become impossible. So instead, we argue about reality itself to take the truth away from us, because denying meaning is easier than accepting responsibility, reformation of systems, or reparations. This is Kierkegaard's most dangerous idea of all time. Truth is not something that you possess. Truth is not something that you possess. Truth is something that possesses you. What did you say earlier about truth? Truth is not something that you possess. It's
Something you walk with.
It's someone you walk with. I'm going to take it one step further as well and say that something that possesses you. If truth does not change you, it hasn't been received, only observed. If truth does not cost you something, it hasn't been encountered, only discussed. And Kierkegaard believed that the opposite of truth was not error, it was despair. The opposite of truth is not error, it's not false, it's human despair. Truth itself is the character of God, it's hope. So the opposite of hope, then, is despair. Despair is knowing something that matters and refusing to let it matter to you. That's the lack of hope. Despair is knowing something matters and refusing to let it matter to you. We love phrases like, it's complicated. We need more information. I'm colorblind. Both side-ism. The what about-ism. What about this? What about that? And sometimes these are honest phrases. Not all of them, but sometimes they are honest phrases. But honest, that they function more as moral anesthesia They numb us to urgency of that truth. They postpone our responsibility, and they protect us from the changes that we have to face and make. When truth is reduced to complexity alone, it loses its power to call us forward. So, what does this mean here, now, in this moment? It does not mean abandoning evidence. Data is still important, facts still matter. It does not mean that we reject investigation. Earlier, we talked about when information is brought in, please take the next step to figure out if it's real or not. It's not about choosing emotion over facts. It means integrating facts that we have with courage. Truth requires evidence. Truth requires humility. Truth requires personal risk. Truth requires human centering. When truth becomes abstract, it becomes harmless and therefore useless. We do not need to have a uniform belief. We do not need ideological consensus because we will never reach it. We all have different lives and different vantage points. That's what makes us human. We need commitments to evidence, to accountability, to moral seriousness, and to human dignity. Think about the arguments that we have. How many times do they move us into rejecting human dignity? Truth is not sameness. It's faithful engagement with reality. I often think about this, that great minds think alike. Does anyone know the second clause of that saying? Great minds think alike. But fools seldom differ. Great minds think alike, but fools seldom differ. Debate makes us better. Coming at our truth at multiple angles makes us better. Truth is not something that we win with. It's something we become faithful to. This week, another viral video that I'll close with this is the Episcopal Bishop of Rhode Island. Did anyone watch this video? No? Saying, as he told his pastors in Rhode Island, that they need to get their affairs in order because the time is coming soon that they will have to resist tyranny, oppression, and just cruelty of the most marginalized with their own personal bodies, standing in the way of injustice, setting their body as a shield of mercy, not of violence. So we'll take the next few minutes. There's a couple questions, answer that, and then we'll come back together and do a Q&A time.